Yusuf. Um, all right. I think he's probably working on getting in and stuff. So let's start with the discussion, religious violence in Nigeria. Um, Simply to give a definition before we start with the first question, religious violence in Nigeria, here I define it as an act of violence or persecution, as well as discrimination targeting individuals or groups based on their religious beliefs and sometimes tribal beliefs, or particularly Christians and other minority groups. But like I mentioned earlier, this first session is focusing on a Christian perspective, or the discussion will focus particularly from a Christian perspective. The second section will happen in the spring, and that will bring up other scholars and other faith leaders from other religious tradition other than Christian religion. So this violence is often perpetrated by extreme groups like Boko Haram and ISIS-affiliated organizations who are fueled by ideological, socioeconomic, and historical factors to target Christians. For instance, in December 2016, a group of people were attacked in Kagoro, which led to the killings of not less than 60 people during the eve of Christmas. They were celebrating the eve of Christmas. Other such attacks have been seen in places like Kaduna, where suicide bombers drive their car in speed and attack the church in Kaduna. Other attacks such as vehicle attack even in Gombe, even last year, there was an attack that claimed the life of about 3 people and left many people injured. And I have been in the hospital to check those people when I was back home in Nigeria. So to start our time together, Reverend, if you could open up our session, how do extremist ideologies such as those perpetrated or those propagated by groups like Boko Haram and ISIS-affiliated organizations contribute to the targeting of religious communities in Nigeria?
Are you talking to Reverend Kalla?
Hello?
Reverend Kalla, Reverend Kalla.
Okay. Yeah, Reverend, we can hear you.
Hello?
Some
I think
Can you ask the question again?
all right. How do extremist ideologies such as the ones promoted by Boko Haram and other such organizations contribute to the targeting of religious communities, particularly Christians in Nigeria? Feel free to go first, Samela. Maybe he's not.
Okay, so part of what has been happening is so these ideologies mostly, that is being preached by their religious leaders, mostly in the mosques and places around where they meet, one way or the other. What it does is that it labels people, especially Christians and people that are not Muslim, as, they usually have a term, a derogatory term that they refer to us, which is called Arna. So people, when they look at us this way, so it kind of contributes to, making us look as if we are less human than them. And this is also rooted in the colonial legacy, whereby when the colonial masters came in Nigeria through indirect rule, they make the Fulani people to rule over other minority ethnic groups. So that legacy continues, whereby people that are not Muslims in Nigeria all over, especially in the middle belt and northern part of Nigeria, they are often looked as less humans, and that contribute a lot to the violence that we are facing in the country. And Christians in Nigeria face persecution year round. This is not only something that happened during Christmas. And this ranges from discrimination in the far north, where minority Christian living among majority Muslim ethnic group experience social, political, and economic marginalization, to the large sense of violence and killing that happen in Middle Belt. Let me give you an example. My name is Samaila, and I'm from northern Nigeria, and I'm from the Hausa ethnic group. And the Hausa ethnic group is the largest ethno-linguistic group in northern Nigeria, and majority of them are Muslims. But because I'm a Christian, for me to get like a certificate of indigene that shows that I'm from Kano State, we have to follow through the back door, get someone who is a Muslim that is willing to help us. Because the question they ask is, how can you be, a Christian and claim to be Hausa? So minority Christian group among majority Muslim ethnic group a lot in northern part of Nigeria face persecution year round. And when you go to the Middle Belt region in places like Kaduna, Plateau, even this week, there were a lot of killings that happened. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samaila. That is a good start. Reverend, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, if you could speak to how do some of these ideologies, Samela started on a very good note. How are some of these ideologies promoting the targeting of Christians? Yeah, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm battling with the way the question is put. Already, you have defined their ideology. It's looking somehow ideological, of course. That is why they are prompted to do what they are doing. Samela has started saying one word. The indoctrination they have is to label those who are not Muslims as Arnas, which means the infidels. It's a derogatory statement to whoever that is not actually a Muslim. But more to that is the fact that even some of the nominal Muslims are not actually regarded as Muslim enough if they are not actually following their ideology of labeling non-Muslims as Arnas. So for me, I look at it from their scholarship in terms of the indoctrination, the training they have is so extreme to the point that even the nominal Muslims are not regarded as Muslim enough. In my experience here in the northeast of Nigeria, of course, I've been working closely with quite a number of those extreme groups because I deal closely with some of the victims of Boko Haram and some of the members of Boko Haram who are repented and have now been, accepted to be in the society. Some of those ones, I don't mention their names because it's very secretive and very, very dangerous. But they are helping in telling us some of the things they do in terms of, promoting their evil activities. The Boko Haram, the ISWAP, they are all connected. Now the recent one, even the Fulani bandits is also another form of it, that their target is not just beyond clearing or killing the Christians, but dominating the areas, both political and economic, inflicting pains and terror within the community so that it will only be them to be in control, whether over the resources, whether the polity, whether the lands. Of course, land grabbing has also been part of what they are doing to promote their own, ideology in the northern part of Nigeria, particularly between middle belt of Nigeria and also the northern part, especially the northeast. Right now, there are still so many local governments in Borno and Yobe states, Nigeria, where even the Nigerian government cannot lay claim of those areas because they cannot be accessed even by the military. So this to tell you how they have, hijacked the areas, made it their own place, and planting their own seeds of dominance, claiming the area so that it becomes their own place. So these are some of the things they are really doing, and they are pushing to get it to terrorize people and then frighten us from actually not giving. So the utterances is one, the inflicting of fear is two, killings and taking over lands. These are all ways they do to promote their own cause in our areas.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend. You mentioned you thank you so much. You mentioned the economic aspect of this, which you started talking about land and other economic factors. Can you give more examples? I know you mentioned about even the Nigerian government not having access to some other local government in Maiduguri. Can you maybe expatiate on that?
Yes, I am telling you this from experience because before the advent of Boko Haram, those are areas I have visited. Local governments like Mate, Gambarugala, Magomeri, Damasak, Malamfotori, Baga areas. These were places I have ministered with the use of Jesus film to reach out to people during those days. When the Boko Haram came, it has become difficult not only for civilians to penetrate, but even for Nigerian military. What is obtainable now there is that they have their own leadership, they are collecting their tax. The farmers that used to farm maize and beans at the Lake Chad border are no longer there. It is only those who are amongst them and they are taxing them, collecting revenue from among these people. So you see the economic benefit is there, and then the political control, because those people are now under them. They are free to do whatever as long as they subject themselves to the rules and regulations of Boko Haram and ISWAP, so they could not be killed. So automatically, it is very clear that those areas have been hijacked by these Boko Haram people in the Northeast.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yeah, Sambo, can I chip in?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, I was interviewing some women in IDP camp, in Garku IDP camp in Nasarawa State, Nigeria, who for about 15 years, they have been living in that camp. And those women are from northeastern part of Nigeria. And where Reverend Kala just spoke about. Before leaving that camp, they were all farmers. Through farming, they make their money, they send their children to school, and farming support their source of livelihood. But now for 15 years, these women have been in that camp, in IDP camp, where they struggle, in fact, to get money to raise their children, where they struggle to have source of livelihood. And I asked them, what is your hope about returning home after these 15 years? So some of them are still, being traumatized because when they think about going back home, they will still hear that there is another attack that happened in that same community. Or some of them, what they told me was that what they had and what they have seen by those who went back home is that presently in their home, there are people that they don't know. Majority of these people are Muslims, that they are living in their own land, in their own houses that they build, farming it, and also having, source of their income. So they are scared to go back to their houses because, already there are people after 15 years living there. And part of me wonder, what is the government of Nigeria doing? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You started hinting about a question that we will approach, but quickly, I just wanna capture this idea that you mentioned earlier when you started talking about trying to get even an indigenship in Kano because as a Christian who is living in this dominated place that majority of the people are Muslims, what other forms of persecution or form of religious hatred or discrimination apart from just the economic aspect or killing of people that is often mentioned, can you talk about or can you speak to if there's any?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of discrimination. And at first, I would like to say Malan Zari Yusuf is here and he's raising his hand. And also, part of it is that Kano State, where I came from, have fought for local government. I'm talking about the political aspect now, and you will discover that never in the history of Kano since democracy has a Hausa Christian ever become even a local government chairman just because he is a Christian. You get it. And also there are different commissions, commission office in the state. Rarely will you see a Hausa Christian just because you are a minority. Really will you see, a Hausa Christian being assigned any political office. In terms of education, every year the Kano state government do issue like a scholarship to support indigene of the state, but there have never been a time we can verify this that a Hausa Christian that I know of is being given even one opportunity, for studies. The question is, how are you a Hausa and still Christian? Thank you. So to them, it's something that is even surprising for someone to be a Hausa person by ethnicity and at the same time Christian. The assumption is that all Hausa people are Muslims. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I once had some of my classmates that said they are even Muslims before Hausa. That's just by the way. Thank you, Zarayi. Can you please on your camera so that we can see you? And probably unmute so that you can also be here with us. I guess, Giselle, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I did the introduction, so you can just jump right in and answer the question. You need to unmute, though.
All right. Thank you so much. I would hastily make my submission because I've been struggling with my network. I don't exactly know what's it. I'm not in my base, so moving away from my access to Wi-Fi and all of that has made it a bit difficult. I would want to pick up somewhere from where Samaila was talking about. While I am not an indigene of Kanu, but I once confronted a Hausa Muslim. It was a gathering of Fulani, Hausa, and Kanuri Christians. And I asked them, I said, why do you identify as Masihiyawa? Why not just be Christians like all others? And I think I got schooled by a professor who is from Katsina. The discrimination and the oppression Samaila is talking about has a deep history. You may or may not have heard of Sheikh Abubakar Gumi, the father of this current Sheikh Gumi, who is in Kaduna. He took to, I think, BBC, was it BBC or VOA, but an international platform, and he claimed that in the entirety of the ethnic nationalities of the Hausa, the Fulani, the Kanuri, there is nobody that is not a Muslim. In other words, those ethnic nationalities are synonymous to Islam. As a matter of fact, in my early years of translation, I stumbled into a document where somebody was attempting to claim that the Hausa ethnicity emerged alongside Islam. So if you find anybody that speaks the language of Hausa and is not a Muslim, he is somebody they refer to as Bamaguje. They are a different set of people that just imbibed the culture of Hausa people and learned their language. but an original Hausa man is a Muslim. That is how far they went. Now, that is to give you an idea of why they would naturally have a problem if you show up today in Kano, in the office of the government, or you go to Sanyawa, or you go to Kumboso and say, I am an indigen of Kumboso. My parents have lived here for hundreds of years, or possibly thousands. This is my ancestral land. And then you are a Christian. It doesn't make sense to them. So they've been conditioned to believe they have been conditioned to believe that it is not possible for you to claim to be a Christian and be Hausa. So it's a taboo. It's something that should not happen. And that is the reason why you will never, I'm saying you will never, because even in the future, it will not happen until something changes. You will never be entitled to scholarships. You will never be entitled to political appointments. If you happen to, especially in professional fields such as medicine, the academia, research, where they need your expertise, you may only do the work, but you will not enjoy the promotion. I have seen that right from childhood and I grew in it. Now, to give you a bit of a background, you see, of late, let me start with something that happened barely 24 hours ago, but perhaps maybe 12, 24 hours ago on the plateau. A group of Islamists just killed over 12 people, 12 Christians. You might have heard of Jude Saul, who sent a warning to Nigeria saying there are intelligence gathered that they have vowed that this year Christians will only celebrate their Christmas in pools of blood. And they have been going around killing people. They kill sometimes 6, sometimes 12, but barely 24 hours ago, they killed about 12 people. Now, let me relate this to the bigger picture. The National Security Advisor of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is Nuhu Ribadu, who happens to be a Muslim, who happens to be a Fulani man. Now, that man, I think yesterday or the day before, a group of Islamists were arrested in Kwara State. Okay? I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
All right. A group of Islamists were arrested in Kwara State. And I think they less than 10 of them, they were armed with sophisticated weapons. In the course of interviewing them, it was discovered that they carried the ID cards of Miyetti Allah. Not only were they carrying the identity cards of Miyetti Allah. Now, for those who don't know, Miyetti Allah is a group that is supposed to be for herders, but basically it has operated as a terrorist organization, especially in Nigeria's Middle Belt. As far back as 2018, it has taken responsibility for deadly massacres of Christians across southern Kaduna, Plateau, Benue, under the claim that they looked for maybe 10, 20, or 30 of their cows and they were missing, so they took revenge by killing sometimes 30, sometimes 60 people. So that's basically what Miyetti Allah stands for. It's a terrorist organization. So they were carrying the ID cards of Miyetti Allah, and then the weapons they carried were issued by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Now, a group that has been called severally by the Middle Belt, by the Christian Association of Nigeria to be proscribed as a terrorist group, is now carrying arms in a part of the country that they are not even native to. You know, it's a different case if they say to you they arrested 5 Hausa people with arms in Kano or Katsina. You say, okay, maybe it's their village and they are vigilante. Or they say they arrested 10 thief people in Benue. You say it's their village. Or they say they got 50 Angas or Biron people on the plateau. You say, okay, it's their village. Maybe they are vigilante. But what business does a member of Miyetti Allah, a group that should be proscribed as a terrorist group, be doing in Kwara State with arms issued by the National Security Advisor? So we are in dangerous times. In other words, we are getting to a point where it is possible today that these Islamists can actually kill people, and even the federal forces like the military or the police cannot touch them. because all somebody has to do is to come out and say, I know them, I gave them the arms to do it. This is something that, even in the fact that it is evil, should be covered. But the National Security Advisor suddenly came out and said they are known vigilante members. They were armed by my office. Now, remember, along that region, Kogi, not long ago, a couple of days back, the Evangelical Church of West Africa, now the Evangelical Church of Winning All, was attacked. People were killed, people were abducted. The media has gone silent about that. The church itself, for whatever reason, is silent about it. Now, this is painful. I don't just have a problem with the government, I have a problem with the church, I have a problem with the Nigerian church, because we have been cowardly, we have been complacent, we have been weak, we have been too submissive. There is a place in the Bible where you stand for justice. There is a place in the Bible where you resist evil. It's not only in the spiritual sense, it's in the physical sense. They attacked this church, and everybody goes about his business. It is in the same area that this group of terrorists were arrested. Now, this is the contrast I want to bring with the massacre of Christians on the plateau that happened barely 24 hours ago, and the arrest of Islamists in Kwara State. On the plateau, while the NSA has refused to allow the people to arm themselves, even with 10 guns, to defend themselves, not attack anybody, down in Kwara State, he is arming the group that is made up of the elements that are killing people in the Middle Belt. He is arming them, and he is protecting them by claiming they are recognized vigilante members by the federal government. Now, this is how dangerous it has become in the country. In other words, extremism or Islamism is taking place, is already owning the government of the day, is becoming a part of the government of the day. If you understand what I mean. From attacking Christians, now it looks as if it is infiltrating the government. Now we will begin to live as if we are under an Islamist government, where a group of people can come to your village and wipe out Christians, and all it will take is for somebody at the top, either the president, either the NSA, either the defense minister, to tell you, we know these people, they are our people, we arm them, and that's all. So these are dangerous times, and this is why I would just appreciate the platform you have to intellectualize, discuss, put this conversation on the table, especially internationally. Like I said, locally, not much is being done. Until this moment, I doubt if mainstream media has covered this massacre that I'm talking to you about. People are not talking about it. And when the case of arming Islamists in Kwara State came up, the National Security Advisor just covered it up by saying he knows them, the federal government knows them. So exactly what does that mean? Are you saying if Al-Qaeda attacks the United States, it suffices for the state secretary or for the Secretary of Defense of the US to say, we know them? It's a terrorist attack. They are terrorists. But then somebody is now openly coming out to claim that the government is aware of them. Why do you need Fulani Islamists in Kwara State doing that? They are massacring people here. You will not let people have their weapons to defend themselves, but you are arming them with sophisticated issues from the National Security Advisor's Office. So we are in very dangerous times, and I'm sorry I may take a bit long because my network is crappy, so I may just do my submission and something could happen, that's why. So we are in a very difficult situation, and for the sake of those who are not maybe familiar with Nigeria, you are from Nigeria, Samaila has been in Nigeria, has lived in the core north as somebody from Kano, and he has schooled in some part of the Middle Belt in Kagoro. Kagoro used to be a spotlight of killings. I was there in 2022 around December where they massacred people, where they burnt down a whole, that you find a community that where the houses are completely burnt down. So you wonder how long it takes people to do that. And the military post was barely, maybe was less than a kilometer away, just about 500 meters away from where the killings took place. And when these people did that, I went and I realized it was a grand scheme. So they are not killing us because they are brave enough to do it. It is because there is a sophisticated network up, and they have keyed into international terrorist organizations like ISWAP, and they are heavily funded. They have propaganda people in the United Nations. They have huge funds where they pay lobbyists in the US, in Europe, in different parliaments. And that is the reason why sometimes, except for now, that senators in the United States have decided to zoom into what's happening in Nigeria. Formerly, nobody listened to us. If they killed 500 people, nobody cared. If they killed 10,000 people, nobody cared. If they took over a community and renamed it, nobody cared. So it's a very dangerous scenario, and it is getting worse. And Christmas is approaching, it's just a couple of days away. It is our honest hope that the government takes an action, but from the look of things, they are actually following up on their threats. They did say it will be a very bloody December. Nobody knows. Will they just be killing in the rural areas? Will they come to the urban centers? Will they employ bombs? Will they assassinate? Will they do? Nobody knows exactly what they are going to do. But so far, they are bleeding our communities as they threatened. And that's quite unfortunate. And I appreciate, I would say to Samaila and yourself, I have said this to him many times, and I will say this to him and you again. Whatever platform you have, the opportunity you have, don't see it as an opportunity for you to build yourself. Begin to see yourself as a Nehemiah. Begin to see yourself as a David. Begin to see yourself as a Daniel. Because there are millions of people that are powerless and hopeless. All they need is 1, 2, 3 passionate people who will not stop talking about their plight and who will grow as strong as possible as they can to begin to, like I said, you are in the US, I'm here in Nigeria. I would love for you to make friends with people in Congress. I would love for you to make friends with students from other parts of the world. I would love for you to be bold enough to take advantage of platforms and tell our story. Because why I say so is because it does look like we may not have a local solution at the moment. We may need a lot of international assistance to come and help us.
Thank
That
you. Thank
basically
you
is
so much.
where I will summarize this. And thank you so much. So if I happen to fall off, then you should understand it's my network. But I hope I was clear enough, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malan Yusuf. You have spoken a lot, and yeah, of course, you have spoken even to some of the questions that I was gonna ask. But just to pick some of the things that you were mentioning, Yusuf, and if Samaila, you could speak to some of these things. He emphasizes some of the forms of persecution that Christians experience, including like the government even been taken by largely Muslims. Now, when I say Muslims, I make emphasis about Muslims who are extremists. Not all these Muslims, like I said, are extremists, but some of these Muslims that are extremists. So to follow up that conversation, Samela, how do you think the destruction of churches by these extremists, schools sometimes, community infrastructure affect the social cohesion and long-term development of persecuted Christian communities? Like you're trying to build this thing, and then another person is coming in to destroy it. What do you think is the impact, or how do you think this impact you started mentioning earlier about the woman you interview? If you could speak to that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the church is not only a spiritual center in our context where people get to know about Jesus, get a spiritual renewal. It is also a center where people, where social cohesion is being established, where also, stuff about education and economic development take place. And the church also usually serve as the center of the community, whereby people from different location usually come together to worship and also talk about other activities about life. So you see, the more churches are keep being destroyed in our communities one way or the other, that is not only affecting the spiritual life of the community, it's also affecting this social cohesion and also these issues about economic development that keeps happening in the church. And also when we talk about, the church also, the church also as the physical building and also as, you know, as individuals. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Reverend, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here with us.
Okay, great. Do you want to follow that conversation? In the Northeast, where you have largely been involved with, like, even the issue of Boko Haram. I remember at the time that Boko Haram donated bombs in churches. I was part of the Boys Brigade officers that were guiding the church, and we had like no securities. We had to be there, and anytime we see anybody coming towards the church, we are always afraid that something bad is going to happen. This could be a suicide bomber. If you could speak to that, how does that destruction affect the long-time development of Christian communities?
Yeah, following to that, before I made mention of that statement, I needed to raise more issues regarding the aspect of the Christian persecutions. We have not exhausted actually those ones. I see the angle of Kano. He talks about indigenship aspects. The guy who spoke from the Middle Belt talked on the issues of the attacks going on there. But Middle Belt is also having that problem of indigenization and citizenship issues. We know that very well. Coming to the Northeast, well, we have cases of deprivation of plots of land for building churches, which I know is also common to those in Kano area. In the case of giving admission to students in the university to read some courses, our Christian youths are deprived of getting courses like medicine, pharmacy, and law, even if they are qualified for admissions. And this is due to the persecution we are talking about. This is also part of violence targeted on a particular group or sect, which of course is targeted to the Christian community. This one we know. Our government officers are denied promotions on the basis of religion. Even in our local government recently, a level 12 person was placed on level 15 person to become the treasurer of the local government, while somebody who is level 15 was denied. These are some of the cases that we are really passing through. Now, coming to the issues of attacks, definitely it retards development because when you have spent a lot of money erecting your church, building schools, building your business areas, and overnight, a terrorist group will come and sweep it with fire, kill the people and everything. You don't expect this person to come up with a strength of rebuilding this place immediately. It takes a long time to heal the trauma first, and it takes a long time to bring the person's confidence to even decide whether he will still rebuild the business in that area or relocate. And that is why most of the Christians who were attacked in the Northeast have relocated to Middle Belt. You find them in Jos Plateau State, you find them in Nasarawa State, you find them in FCT Abuja will be meeting. In fact, some of them who were even privileged have to leave the country and base in the US. I remember I met the former EYN president in Washington, D.C. He left the Northeast where the headquarters of the EYN in Mubi was sited, and so he had to leave. These are some of the things that actually affect development. Now, when it comes to killing of human lives, of course, we know that men with brains that are supposed to bring developments are being killed. So definitely it affects the development of the area. So eventually we see migration of people who are capable to stay and do something are forced to leave because of the situation of insecurity, because of the killings, because of the attacks going here and there. Some of us who are here in the Northeast and doing what we are doing, perhaps it's either because we lack where to go or we have chose to stay no matter what because of the situation, because we have found ourselves here and we have to deal with them. But like I'm telling you, threats are all over the areas, and it is really giving Christians the second chance. I mean, the second thoughts of whether this is the country they belong or there is another country for Christians somewhere. Because for you to think of spending huge amount of money, not, let me even tell you on a general note, even some of the Muslims are not investing here in this part of the world because they are afraid anything can happen. This is what, insecurity can do for a place. And so definitely it has to retard growth and development in a very, very negative way.
Thank you so much, Reverend. All right. I want to give an opportunity for people who may have questions. So please, if you have question, you can write it and submit it in written. And after this question, I will definitely pick up some of this question because I don't want us to lose some of our panelists due to network issues or some form of network. What about Zarai? You started speaking about the government and how some of these government officers are complicit in several ways, or even they are the ones sponsoring some of the things that are happening in terms of like giving people opportunities or giving terrorists the opportunities that they should not get. What are some reforms that you think are needed within the Nigerian legal and government structures to ensure that religious freedom is equally protected for all citizens, irrespective of whether the person is a Christian or the person is not a Christian, or whatever belief the person may held onto? And addressing the issues of impunity for perpetrators of violence. What are some of the reforms that you think are needed, Zarai? Hello, are you here with us?
I think he might have dropped off the call.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry we lost one of our panelists. Samela or Reverend, if you could speak to that, yeah, it's gonna be nice.
Okay, come again. What
are some of the reforms? What are some of the reforms that you think are needed in the legal and governmental structures?
Yeah, okay. Everything bounces on the government for me. Just last week, I was a participant in the program of freedom of religion and belief here in Gombe that covers the Northeast. And after the 3 days program, I was also invited to speak at the media stations here in Gombe, and they covered the whole thing live. My concern has always been on the government, because the government is a strong institution that promulgate laws, and they can, make those things to become beyond just the laws, but practical, belief. For instance, in the cases of abduction of Christian girls, forcing them to marry Muslims, not on their will, we address some of these things, and we came to the level of government to tell them, look, except there is a law enacted that will point out some of those errors that the clerics, the Muslim clerics are doing, then we will not get it right, because they will always say that they are doing that based on Sharia law. But the Sharia law does not affect the non-Muslim. So why are they also involving the non-Muslim into their Sharia affairs? You get the point. So my own take here is that the reforms will come from the government, because it's an institution of the state that can do it. Unfortunately, like we are saying, majority of the people who are involved in this policy making are also the Muslims. So in whatever way you turn, you discover that as long as they are not reformed by themselves in terms of their own, humanity, it will still be sentimental. And I want to also look at it from one angle, that the Muslim clerics and the Christian clerics together need to be more educated on the religious books. Because sometimes they will tell us that there is no compulsion in religion, but when it turns the other side, you still be seeing compulsion being in exercise. And so there is need for reforms, and these reforms will take a proper training, like the Union Theological Seminary that I just had the introduction. They train both Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims. If these people are brought together on a table of training, they can come out refined with proper ideology of seeing humanity into action, rather than being sentimental from their so-called confines of doctrines that they are brought up with. So the angle of government is there. The angle of religious leaders are also key for us to really get it right, because the religious leaders are the ones who are having the people, both the local and also within the community. They are always engaging these people. So whatever you teach your followers, they always take it and they believe that their master, their pastor, or their malam have spoken, and so they continue to retain that that doctrine to which the malam has stated. So I see it from these two angles, and they are very key. The government should be deliberate in making policies that will see freedom of religion into exercise, and then also the religious leaders should be refined, because we have very terrible religious leaders. When you hear them speak on the pulpit of the churches and the mosques, sometimes you begin to wonder whether they are truly trained from those various seminaries and the Zangaya or Imam, schools, Islamic schools that they are brought up with. So definitely there is need for reformation of the careers of the messages.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Yeah, Samela?
Yeah, so let me say this briefly. I think part of the thing that I see also fueling violence in Nigeria and around the world is the story that is being shared. Stories that is rooted, and baptized with hatred. And I see why top-down, reformation is needed. I also think of, why can't we start it from bottom up through the children? And, instead of telling, definitely we have to tell our children the story of our nation, of what is happening. Instead of telling, children stories that will end up, making them grow hating this religion or this other person, let those children be raised with stories of, despite what happened, we are all humans. Let's love one another. So I think a generation which rise with this story of love instead of hatred and discrimination will make a very great difference. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samaila. I know your work with children, and I admire what you do. Thank you. That was beautiful. All right, we have two questions here that I would like to read before we continue our discussion. So one person asks, how may the church leaders in other parts of Nigeria who are opposed to the religious violence practiced in the north of Nigeria collectively address the challenge and make a difference? Should I read the second one, or you want to attempt this one first?
Yes, if you could read the second one, it's related to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Are they even able to have any significant impact on helping to resolve the situation in any meaningful way? Are we also hearing that there is no organization, agency, or collaboration of organizations in Nigeria that can effectively challenge and change the depth of religious violence taking place in the country?
Okay, let me briefly say something there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Reverend.
We have different organizations and platforms that are working in Nigeria to address some of these things. I forgot this guy that spoke about the issues in Jos. In Jos, we have, in fact, many of these organizations. I know of the Stephanos that is deeply rooted in Jos, and they speak much about this Christian persecution stuff. I know of Gideon Paramalam, who is also key to that. Apart from the issue of Khan, that is always raising its voice, he had mentioned that. And I think also we have individual pastors, nationally, who raises their voices about this persecution. Recently, Isa El Buba has spoken to the, the power that be about this issue of Fulani attacks. He said from the east to the west to the south to the north, anywhere you hear the attacks is Fulanis. Why is that particular tribe terrorizing everywhere in the nation and the country is silent? The government is not talking. No, these are voices that they are actually coming up and they are speaking to the power regarding these persecutions and the attacks that are happening. And like I'm telling you, it is only that some of these stories are not told widely to be heard by people. Even here in Gombe, we raise our voices. We speak in our churches about what is happening. But sometimes the messages doesn't go, out there for people to hear that voices are speaking. When you look at the media houses, sometimes you want a particular message to be carried. The same people you go to their media houses, they are the same people who are there to decide what to share in the media houses. There are several times my stories were denied being heard in the media houses. And because they will always tell you that that thing is going to trigger crisis. What crisis? When you are seeing the real truth that is going on, so these are some of the things. I just want to say that there are voices coming up. What we need to do more is to have a good platform of pastors, speaking the same thing. It will definitely get to the people in power that, yes, this is our pain. Sometimes speaking individual voices cannot carry weight. Secondly, there should be Christian media houses, solely Christian media houses that cannot be tempered by politics or sentiment of religion. Let the truth be told. Let it be spoken the way it is. For instance, when President Trump declared Nigeria as a country of particular concern, some people were trying to say no to it, but eventually the truth has manifested. We are all crying together with the Muslim. All of us are in pain because the truth of the matter is real, is practical. So we need media houses that will report these stories without bias. Instead of a politician trying to cover his own things because he's looking for political position. That is not the voice we are looking for. We are looking for the voice of conscience, the voice of truth that will say this and that. We have also in the pastoral group some pastors who have also soiled themselves with the policies of the government because they are taking appointments and they are receiving salaries from the government. So they find it difficult to speak the truth to power. Sometimes even when we tell them this is what is happening, they wouldn't want to hear our side of the stories because they are afraid the government will deprive them from the little they are getting. But it pains me a lot because why will you, at the expense of the lives of the people you are pastoring, that you will not speak the truth and just come because you are going to pick some peanut and kola nut from the government? So we have that angle. But the few pastors who are speaking truth will come on board, have a good platform to also stand and to declare. Another angle is these theological schools that we have need to be transformed. We are more narrow-minded in terms of our teachings, especially within our context. We are so, negative on the aspect of, hatred towards the Muslim or whatnot. What we are doing is to preach love to the people and to also make sure that there is transformation in the community. Let us be, community-minded, that we may be able to reach out both the Muslim and the Christians to feel the church in mind. Let them believe that that love that Christ has given the church.
Reverend, are you here with us? All right. Apologies for the network. This is something that I envisage that could likely happen. Okay.
Raise a lot of... Okay.
Hello, are you here with us, Reverend?
Yeah, okay. I said, if you look at the early missionaries, they come with schools, they come with hospitals, they even do a lot of community transformation. Both Muslim and Christians have enjoyed it. I have done a practical example of one now in a mission station. I went there, their demand was to build a church. I told them my own is different from your angle. They say, okay, what do I want them to do? I said, drill a borehole, get a deep well where both the church and the community will benefit from it. They will see the love of the church in you. Don't mind building the church yet. And they obliged to my advice. In less than 2 years, their church was jam-packed with unbelievers who came to church to say thank you because you have provided water that we are finding it difficult to get. So these are some of the things that the church should also be doing. Instead of us being busy looking at the noises that is coming from the world, let the church be busy with the mission that God has given us, preaching out, reaching out, sharing the love of the church to the world so that they will see that, yes, the church means a lot of, business and good things to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend. Yusuf, Malan Yusuf, are you here with us? It seems like you
Yeah,
went.
he just got fallen again.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's having a network issue.
All right. I'm here.
Okay.
I
Did you
fell up,
get
then
the question?
suddenly I fell back.
Okay. Did you get the question?
No, maybe you repeat them and then I
Okay.
try to
how many?
address them.
All right. I'm gonna read the question right now. How
Yes,
many
go ahead.
How may the church leaders in other parts of Nigeria who are opposed to the religious violence practice in the north collectively address the challenge and make a difference? And are they even able to have any significant impact on helping to resolve the situation in any meaningful way? Second to that, also, are we also hearing that there is no organization, agency, or collaboration of organizations in Nigeria that can effectively challenge and change the depth of religious violence taking place in the country? I will appreciate it if you answer this question briefly. We have like 3 other questions to answer so that we can stay within our time.
All right.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So the first one with regards to whether there are pastors or Christian leaders in the southern part of the country that could help. We have so many of them. But one of the major problems we have in Nigeria is we have people who are already used to, or they are keyed deeply into the prosperity gospel. And that has a lot to do with that a lot of what they do, the positions they take, is dictated by the political atmosphere. And that is the reason why we've got a few who speak up, but they do so as individuals. Now, as individuals, they don't carry the weight of having 2, 3, 4 church leaders standing to take a position. So he just speaks as an individual, and then possibly the mainstream media will not carry it. So that is basically the problem we have. And I think the body language of some of the pastors from the southern part of the country is such that the reality in Nigeria's middle belt, where you go to a community and massacre as high as 500 people, as far as high as 250 people, you get to rape women, you get to sack entire communities. It has not started happening down south in that number. Of course, we've got attacks, we've got killings, we've got kidnappings, but they haven't gotten to a point where they can count communities 5, 10, 20, 200 completely wiped out and nobody stays there. I mean, Samaila was mentioning a woman that has been in the IDP camp for over 10 years, which simply means their village has been deserted for over 10 years. That basically is what it means. To the second question of whether there are no local organizations that are doing anything, there are active organizations locally, but the only response they have is to adapt to the situation, basically supplying food items to IDPs and all of that. But in the direct confrontation of the persecution of Christians at the governmental level or resisting these Islamists when they come to attack, frankly speaking, we don't have such organizations, or the organizations on ground have been handicapped by the government to do that. So a lot of the times when we accuse the church, we are not saying there are no Christian leaders who speak up, but the church to take a position today to do something, it has not happened. And that's because a lot of them have modeled themselves up one way or the other with politicians. And that has made it difficult. But I am hoping that with good support, with good level of organization, the church will get to a point where it champions something tangible that will bring an end to these Islamist massacres.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Someone asked in the question, chat, that how does your analysis take into account tribal or ethnic identity in religious violence in Nigeria, and how does this complicate the idea that it is purely a religious conflict?
We refer to it as a purely religious conflict. It does have elements of ethnicity in it, but the element of ethnicity in it comes when, an example is, if you are a Muslim that happens to be thief, they don't separate you from the non-Muslims. It is religious because there is an ideology it carries, an ideology of supremacy, an ideology of invasion, an ideology of Islamization, such that we know well the targeting, at least, of our people that are being killed, of the hundreds of thousands that have died, is strictly because they are Christians. So that is one of the reasons why we target religious. When you speak about ethnic, we are not saying there are no ethnic clashes across the country. You could have boundary clashes, even intra ethnic clashes from between one community and the next. But a situation where you have a sophisticated network of propagandists in the United Nations, people heavily paying lobbyists in other advanced countries in the world, people heavily supplied with sophisticated weapons, and people targeting communities, soft targets, and basically killing them in their hundreds. There is no such thing as ethnic tension that leads to that. What we have is an Islamic jihad. It is carried out by the Fulani Islamist, and it is a resurrection of the initial Danfodio jihad. But this time around, it has keyed into, I'd say, the global jihadist movement. And that is the reason why they are never in short supply of arms. And even when they kill people, there seem to be a government at the regional organizations like the Economic Community of West Africa, the African Union, have outrightly come out to deny the genocide, regardless of the mass killings going on. So at that regional and sub-regional level, they already have their moles who basically carry out the propaganda that covers them, and nobody tends to know exactly what they are doing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me ask, I'm going to pick two more questions and then we can round up this session because the time is not on our side. Reverend, you mentioned radicals who repented, and someone asked, what sort of things help bring people to a new perspective, abandoning violence?
Well, from our experience and our interaction with them, some of them got involved into such radical things out of ignorance. Some of them also out of poverty and unemployment issues. We did interact, some of them because of indoctrination. So in the process of de-radicalization, because I was one of the persons who was also a kind of invited by the government to be a resource person at the orientation camp of the Boko Haram. So those are the interactions that we get from the repentant Boko Haram, and we pick them from the angle of why they joined the Boko Haram. Some of them told us that they were unemployed and they engaged them to do that. They were paid. Some went in out of ignorance because Islamically they were told when they kill Christians or non-Muslims, they will have a better life hereafter in heaven. So, but in the process of de-radicalization, they have gotten good orientation and good teachings. And so they now decided to abandon that. And so if you get some of these people, for somebody who went there because of poverty, you need to give him some jobs to do. If not, he will come and go back again. So like some of them that I have mentioned here in Gombe, I brought some of them. I paid from my pocket a very good shop. I opened a barber shop for one of them. and he kept on training some of their colleagues. Today, we have 10 barber shops owned by these ex-Boko Haram guys. You are from Gombe, anytime you are in Nigeria, I will take you around to see some of those things live, Pastor Sambo. You will see them. So for those who are also having the problem of indoctrination, we brought some Islamic scholars who have a very good sound Islamic theology and deconstruct those mentalities in them. And today, some of them are good. I sponsored one of the boys. He's a graduate now from Gombe State University in Islamic studies. If you tell him to go back to Boko Haram, he will tell you far be it from that, because he went there out of ignorance. Now he's a reformed person. So some of these things, giving them better education, engaging them into economically viable, or works, can give them a better life, training their mindset to disengage from that wrong teachings can help them become better people. Today, they are helping me a lot in my work in Gombe because I engage in interfaith. So they bring a lot of ideas on table, and people are learning from their past experiences, and it's helping reshape the society better.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend. That is a beautiful work there. Okay, last question from the question box. How do we get, someone asks, how do we get churches in the US involved without creating wide savior complex? What does support from churches, seminaries, or friends? I can see some of the people I partner with or friends from the United Nations and many other people that are on the call today. So if you could speak to what can people contribute, or how can people here in the United States, whether they have an NGO or they have a church, or they lead in a seminary or some other position of leadership, such as the government, can intervene or be involved in this conversation and in helping to fight against this religious persecution. Samela, do you want to go first?
Yeah, let me say something about this. I think just the way Yusuf Uzari said, I think what we really need international help, because with the way things are going, it seems like, yes, there are local effort on ground happening, but just the way things are going presently, we really need international help. And part of the ways that we need help is, to voice out that, hey, this is what has been happening in Nigeria. People are being killed, people are being massacred on daily basis. And, voicing it out. And also, we also, the most important thing is to voice it out, and also to see how there will be an end, to all these crises that is happening, holding people accountable. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Zari, are you with us?
No, I don't. He's not online.
Okay, Reverend, you can go then.
Yeah. Apart from making our voices heard, I think the international organization, especially the churches in the US, should encourage the local, organizations. Yes, sometimes our major challenge can be the linkages that we lack, the funding that we lack, but the activities are really here on ground that needs to, be exercised. I'm speaking from the experience of the fact that I also partner with an organization there in the US, is based in Chicago, called Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership, that we address issues of common concern among religions. And also we bring people together to address some of these challenges of security that we are really facing in this country. So the support needs to really come from outside as well, just like Samaila has mentioned. But again, the local communities, the local leaders needs to be so much encouraged to get the support reach to them to do what they are doing. We are not afraid to face reality. I know It's our country. We can still talk. Whatever it may take, we will remain here. Not all of us will have the privilege like you, Ibrahim Sambo, is in the US to talk there freely. Some of us here are really in danger of speaking what we speak because we may not know what happens the next day or the next time when you've been told or they hear your voice in the media. Sometimes we get threatened messages, along that. So we need encouragement at the local level for us to carry on with what we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend. That is absolutely true. Not only for you who is back home in Nigeria. I think that is true to anybody who is trying to stop evil. I think it's just a general thing that evil will have a way of like trying to fight back. Thank you. So let me know, do you have any concluding thought? Anything you want to share before we end the session, Samela?
Yeah, I think beyond prayers, I do believe that this is time for action because a lot of people are being killed, a lot of people are suffering. So I'm soliciting for, international support for both the international and the locals in Nigeria to partner together to see how we will fight this evil together.
Thank you so much. Reverend?
Yeah, for me, I want to say thank you for the privilege to have this platform. I wish it will be a continual process. And at the same time, we will keep partnering so that we will raise our voices internationally and for people to see reason for, working together as a team. What affects Nigerian church affects the United States church. We are all Christians. We believe in Christ. And so we need to stand in solidarity with ourselves to pray, to support, to encourage so that we will feel safer. We are not safe until the United States is safe. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for making the time to come and listen to this conversation and be part of this conversation. I know there's this famous saying that they said when they start with the other people, the other people thought it's not gonna reach to them, and then eventually it led to them. But we are grateful that you are here and are part of this conversation. And let's continue the conversation. The second version of this conversation will come in the spring, which will be the Ramadan season, Muslims and religious violence in Nigeria. And we will have Islamic scholars and other scholars to be part of this discussion. Over to you, Reverend Davy.
Well, Ibrahim, thank you so much for organizing this conversation. Samela and Reverend Kala, thank you as well for your contributions. I think your other guest is not here. We want to thank him as well. And I'm committed on behalf of Union to this not just being a one-off conversation, and we will look forward to a follow-on conversation in the spring. But in the meantime, let's ask what action steps we can take to ensure that the issue of religious violence in Nigeria is kept front and center for all of us, and to make sure that we can get in those rooms and on those platforms, such as at the UN or with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, to continue to raise the issue of violence, particularly extremist violence against Christians in Nigeria. So let's think about 2 or 3 things we can do between now and when we get together in the spring to ensure that this issue stays at the forefront, particularly for Union Seminary and those of us who are on this call. But thank you for pulling this together, and thanks to everyone who participated today. Happy holidays to everybody, and Merry Christmas to all the Christians on the call.